Okay, so I've got the reference images set up, and I want to show you how to load that file and all other files that you might want to load into Fusion 360. So what you're going to need to do is come up here and click on the drop-down and select New Design from File, and then go ahead and select your F3D file, and it will open up and it'll have all of your components, and it'll have your history, and everything will be set up and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and expand my slide here, make sure that it is selected so that as I'm working, all of my history is going to be captured in the slide component history. And then I'm going to open up the canvases. So I've got all of my canvases set up here. And I'm going to go ahead and hide everything except side left. I'm going to click on the little right side of that cube there and zoom in a bit. And we're going to begin working on this piece here, which is the slide. So I'm going to start with a sketch. And when you make a sketch, it's going to want you to select what plane it's going to go on. So I'm going to go ahead and select this plane here. And I'm going to make a line. And this line can go from there to there-ish. And then kind of find its way to the back corner. And then back over to the top. Now, when you close your form in for your sketch, it'll turn golden like that. So once we've got that, we pretty much have what we need. Now, there's a little discrepancy here at the front, and I might just maybe split the difference. I think that might be that perspective issue. So now that my sketch is done, I'm going to go ahead and hit Stop Sketch. So there we are. So what I want to do is pull this out so that it's got some thickness so that it lines up with the front here. And looking at the front, what I notice is the top of the reference doesn't actually line up with where this sketch is. So I'm just going to edit this this image a little bit. Zoom out a little bit so we get the little transform thing. And we just want to kind of scoot it so that it lines up a little bit better. Now there's going to be some snapping depending on your scale, which can be a little bit of a challenge, given that I can't really zoom out too much. So I'm looking at that value, and it's 5 millimeters. That's too much. So I'm just going to try some different units here. The 1, 2 looks about perfect. So it lines up there, and it lines up there. So that's great. We'll leave it there. Okay, so I'm going to right-click anywhere in the scene, and you can actually go to Modify as well. Now the default up here is going to be Press Pull. So I could just click this, and then it'll ask for a sketch or a piece of geometry to make it a little bit thicker. So all we've got here is a sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and, before I begin messing with it though, I want to set this to symmetric so that as I pull it out, it is going to be the same on both sides. And I want to go out over here. And I'm just going to accept that there's going to be some discrepancy and maybe just decide that this will be the side that I work from, and I'll just do everything symmetrically so that it'll work, hopefully. So I'll hit OK there. So now we've got our starting piece of geometry. I'm going to hide the front view, and we'll take a look at the side view here. I think that's probably okay. So let's go back to the front now and look at some of the trimming type stuff. In fact, I'm going to turn both the front and the side on. Maybe hide the front for a moment. So what I'd like to do is this angled cut that runs from the front all the way to the back. And it's going to be just a little bit tricky because it's kind of at an angle and it's irregular-ish. So we may need to try a couple different approaches, but just to begin, I'm going to go back to my side view here, and I'm going to make a new sketch. So create sketch, click back on the side plane, and I'm going to make a line. And this line can start about there and kind of go to about there. And then I'm just going to actually, let's see, we'll go up a little bit more, just kind of above it, just to make sure that we get a complete coverage there. So I had the the geometry visible when I drew the sketch, so it put a little constraint on it. So I can't actually move this. You see this little purple line here. And that could be good and it could be a little bit bad occasionally if you want to adjust something. But it's not a big deal. You can actually select them and delete them. I just want to make sure that I would like to actually, I'm going to hide the bodies for just a moment. I want to grab this and I'd like to pull it down just a little bit further, but it's kind of arguing with me. So I'm going to select that line there and delete it. And there we go. That's kind of getting a little bit closer, just making sure it's following that edge up. So let's stop sketch. And at this point, we can turn the body back on because otherwise we won't be able to see what we're creating. I'm going to do a press pull and pull this thing out. Now, whenever you have geometry that you're creating that intersects other geometry, it's automatically going to switch to cut. Now, what I'd rather have this be is a new body. I'll hit OK there. I'm going to expand my body here. And we'll just kind of scoot it out of the way. So the way that I would like that to happen is by right-clicking on the name of the body there and clicking Move. There we are. All right, so now let's come and maybe take a glance perhaps at the top view. I'm going to hide the original body. And so here's where we can see how deep that cut actually is. So along the top, it looks like this inside edge is actually angled a bit, and the outside cut runs along the edge of the gun there. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to put a little draft on this thing. So to make a draft happen, that's basically we're just going to slant one of these edges in a little bit. So I am going to go to draft, and you click on so this is the hinge, right? For draft to work, you've got to click on what the plane that you're not going to modify, and then the plane that you're going to modify. So that's the one that's going to be fixed, and this is the one that we're going to tweak. And I'm going to turn on my front sketch here. And just see if I can get kind of close to that. I'm actually going to scoot this guy back over so it's sort of where it should be. We're almost there, but I think it needs to be a little bit more of an angle. Let me zoom in so I can actually get this kind of set up perfectly there. So one of the cool things about this program is I don't have to come back and do another draft. I can actually just right-click on the draft operation once I finish my move here, and go to Edit Feature. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to scoot this up just a little bit, and if we right-click here, you can see it says Edit Feature. Let's get this back down. So here's what we picked for our degrees for that draft operation. It was negative 10. So let me try negative 12. There you go, that looks a little better. Not quite, we'll try a little bit more of an angle, maybe 13. Close it in. Maybe 14. There we are, perfect. Okay, so now we've got that figured out, and we only had to come back and modify this little icon here in the history line, which is cool. And one of the reasons I like working in components, as I said earlier, is all of this stuff is going to be sort of compartmentalized in the component that it is relevant to. So that's a pretty nice thing. So we will continue on with this in the next video. I'll make this cut, and we'll continue adding some of these additional features.